That's what a false accuser looks like to me. That you've never been around this person, or if you've been around them, it wasn't long enough to have abuse take place. He was sleeping with him. He was in love with him. They went places together holding hands. Okay? Why do you all think that the train station erases all of that?
You know what, dear? That is just hot.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to episode 2 of the Jimmy Safechuck Trilogy. Well, I'll just tell you why I felt compelled to do this. I heard another person creating another train station story about James Safechuck. Leaving Neverland has been is now about 5 years old. Okay, going on 6. It's time to move past the train station information if that's what you want to do to try to discredit Jimmy. In Leaving Neverland, when he mentions the train station, he mentions so many other places. And all of you who try to discredit him seem to not want to leave the train station theory alone. What I've decided to do is do this trilogy so that we can talk about all the witnesses that have seen Jimmy Safechuck with Michael Jackson and have had suspicions about him being abused. If you look at these other scenarios, then you should realize that him coming out is a super huge deal. I've already did part 1. You saw LaToya, and she mentioned him, and she talked about the concerns with Michael's parents and talking about the Safechucks. He's not just some kid off the street. And if you want to discredit him, you just can't keep bringing up the train station, because it's plausible that the abuse happened in the train station. I don't think a lot of you understand. You're asking a 40-something-year-old man to remember things that were going on when he was in a preteen. I want you all to kind of just have a reality check. What you ought to do is want to get the story right. And my thing is this: the way I see it, the reason I see it the way I see it is, like, I would say this is a false accuser if this was somebody that never knew Michael Jackson. Right. That's what a false accuser looks like to me. That you've never been around this person, or if you've been around them, it wasn't long enough to have abuse take place. He was sleeping with him. He was in love with him. They went places together holding hands. Okay? Why do you all think that the train station erases all of that? So I'm going to get into the words of somebody who's close to Michael. It's he's a complicated figure in this, because he knows Michael is wrong, but at the same time he continues to enable him, right? And it's Bob Jones, the man behind the mask. Bob Jones worked for Michael Jackson for 17 years. He's known the Jackson family for decades. Michael Jackson hired him and asked him to cut off all of his other clients, which at the time included Diana Ross and Bruce Willis, who were major clients. Um, Bob Jones is a truth teller in this book. And I know that a lot of it is because Michael decided to fire him. And Michael fired him by sending him, which is so strange. Somebody worked for you that long and you fire him by courier. That's just, it's unfortunate. Bob Jones has protected him a lot, but Bob Jones has also tried to tell him, in his words, that he was wrong. I'm going to get into Bob Jones's book and passages where he talks about Jimmy Safechuck. The people who don't know about this book, it was written around 2005. So this is data that is prior to Jimmy Safechuck making his allegation. So before Jimmy Safechuck said that Michael Jackson sexually abused me, this book was already out. And for the record, Jimmy's name is not mentioned specifically in this book, but I'm going to read it with his name because in the passages, the clues tell us that this is Jimmy. If you remember, he's the son of the garbage man. As the Bad Tour moved to St. Louis, a 13-year-old boy named Jimmy joined the entourage. This kid had been with us in New York and was now coming along for the entire tour. Michael completed the first of 3 dates in St. Louis, but then complained that he had gotten sick because Jimmy was sick, and the young boy had somehow spread his germs to him. Security man Bill Bray had told the boy's mother to keep the boy away from Michael since the kid had the flu. Later, Jimmy and his parents went to Europe with us. The tabloids had a field day with their questions about the boy and his parents. One tabloid reported that Michael had purchased the kid by giving the parents a Rolls Royce. To the best of my knowledge, that did not happen. However, it would not have surprised me. Things were getting weird. Steve Chabray, a former president of MJJ Enterprises, later told me Michael did purchase a luxury automobile for this family, as well as a house in the San Fernando Valley in California, all without informing his lawyer or accountants. Bill Bray told me that Jimmy's father worked for a rubbish collection agency, but the father nevertheless stayed on the tour, and on its every stop, Michael and Jimmy stayed locked in Michael's suite. Bray told the staff to keep the parents of the boy occupied. Take them shopping, on trips, just keep them busy doing something, anything. I remember getting an approval from Bill Bray to throw an elegant birthday party for the boy's mother. This was at the exclusive Hotel Negresco, one of the most expensive hotels in the world. The king didn't bat an eye at the huge bill the party rang up. After all, we had the boys' parents with us, and we did whatever it took to keep them occupied. Okay, so what Bob Jones is telling you now, and this gives credence to Jimmy's claim and his parents, how they couldn't get rooms close to them anymore. Here is Bob Jones talking from the grave pretty much. We were told to keep the parents occupied, keep them away from Jimmy and Michael. This should feel like cold water being thrown on some of you. You know, this tells you exactly that they wanted to keep the parents away so Jimmy and Michael can be alone. I mean, like, if you see me shaking my head, I get disgusted, man, because I don't take any pride in this, but I think it's so important to get the story right. It's so important to get the story right. Like, you got witnesses, you got people who told on him. You know, we know who the people in the circle of protection are. Bill Bray. Bill Bray name is going to come up a lot. And when I do a video on Michael's circle of protection, Bill Bray is going to be dead smack in the center of it, right along with Michael. Because when you go and look at videos of Michael and these kids and pictures of Michael and these kids, he's in every single photo. He's in every single video. Bill Bray is deceased. Michael took care of him until he died. He was former LAPD, which makes this worse. You know, it makes it absolutely worse. Because people will ask you, well, how come they never found any evidence? Man, the district attorney said that they didn't feel the LAPD was even being all the way cooperative. They were feeling that there was interference. That's why they paid attention to the tabloids, because the tabloids had accurate stories, you know. But Michael told you, don't listen to the tabloids. And then everybody bought it, you know. And Bob Jones will tell you he sold stories to the tabloids. He sold stories to the tabloids. Like, that's what Bob Jones tells you in here. This is a really good book. The names are all kind of messed up, but like, if you actually knew the characters, who the characters were, then you would have a really good understanding about it. Whatever social or business obligations Michael had, the parents and the boy had to be included. It was law. He wouldn't accept the invitation if he could not bring that family. One of the oldest things that happened occurred at Paris's Decrillion Hotel. Jolie Levine, Jackson's assistant at the time, found a bed sheet in the King's hotel bedroom. On it, Michael had drawn a picture of Jimmy and himself. Also written on the sheet was what amounted to a love note to the boy. Worried that if a hotel housekeeper got a hold of the sheet, it could end up in the hands of the media, or even worse, law enforcement. We had our secretary pack it, and we were taking it with us. That sheet was my first tangible clue that Michael Jackson, the king of pop, was up to no good with this young kid. Now, the name that was mentioned in there is Jolie Levine. You can consider her part of Michael's circle of protection too. She testified and she indicated that, yes, everybody knew Jimmy was sleeping in Michael's room. She never said that she saw Jimmy in there naked or anything, but she says Jimmy was alone sleeping in there. Jolie Levine, I have her testimony too. And there's potential that there was issues with her kid and Michael too. Her kid has not disclosed, but there were concerns. And she was asked about those concerns in her testimony. Of course, before then, I had heard some suggestive stories, you know, like the stories about Emmanuel Lewis and the baby bottles. Pictures of Emmanuel and Michael sucking on baby bottles were published in April of 2005. They were published in Touch magazine. Stories that Michael wasn't as sexual as some thought, or that he wasn't necessarily homosexual. However, what most of these stories did seem to suggest was that Michael was interested in little boys. The drawing on the bed sheet, along with the love note, was a definite cause for concern. I was told that in Nietzsche, Michael Jackson's manager, Frank Delio, found a sheet painted with human feces.